The chilly breeze that swept through my small living room couldn't compare to the coldness in Richard's voice. "You're pregnant? At 45? You can't be serious about keeping it," he said, his eyes devoid of the warmth I once knew. The news I thought would bring us closer had shattered the fragile veneer of our marriage. I stood there, my heart pounding, holding onto the back of the sofa for support. "Richard, it's a miracle we've been trying for." "A miracle?" He cut me off with a bitter laugh. "No, Eleanor, it's a mistake. A child at your age is bound to have problems. I won't shoulder that burden." His words were a slap across my face. 10 years of marriage, of shared dreams and struggles reduced to a heartless judgment. "So, what are you saying?" I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Richard's gaze was steely. "I'm saying we fix this mistake, or it's over." The room spun around me. "Fix this mistake?" He was talking about our unborn child as if it was a clerical error, something to be erased and forgotten. My voice was a mere whisper. "You mean?" "An abortion, Eleanor. It's the only sensible choice." The word hung in the air between us, a death sentence for the life growing inside me. I felt a protective surge, a fierce maternal instinct that eclipsed my shock and hurt. "No," I said firmly, finding strength I didn't know I had. "I'm keeping this baby." Richard's face twisted into a sneer. "Then you're choosing it over me." "It," I echoed, my heart breaking. "This is our child, Richard." "Not mine," he snapped. "I won't be tied down to a middle-aged mother and a defective child. I have my life to think about." The man before me was a stranger, his ambition and pride warping him into someone unrecognizable. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. I had married a facade, a man who valued success and appearances over love and family. "So, that's it? After everything, you'd walk away?" I asked, tears stinging my eyes. Richard didn't waver. "I'm not destroying my life for this. If you're set on ruining yours, that's your choice." With those final words, he left, his footsteps echoing through the hollow halls of our once happy home. I sank to the floor, my body racked with sobs, not just for the end of my marriage, but for the cruel reality that the man I loved had never truly existed. That night, as I lay alone, a hand resting on my still flat belly, I made a silent vow. I would bring this child into the world. I would give it all the love and care it deserved. And as for Richard, he would be nothing more than a bitter memory. Our paths had diverged, but I was determined to make mine one of hope, not regret. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the room where I sat, a cup of untouched tea cooling beside me. Memories, like uninvited guests, flooded my mind. I thought back to the days before Richard, when life was a relentless uphill battle. Fresh out of college, with dreams bigger than my wallet, I plunged into the corporate world. It was a male-dominated battlefield, and every achievement was hard-won. I was a fighter, determined to prove myself. But my parents, ever traditional, saw marriage as the pinnacle of a woman's life. So they nudged me towards matchmaking sessions, hoping I'd find a suitable match. Then came the evening that changed everything. At a company party, I met Richard. He was different, or so I thought. He talked about his dreams of starting a business, his respect for hard-working women. "The future belongs to women like you, Eleanor," he had said, his eyes shining with what I believed was admiration. In that era, a woman aspiring for more than marriage and motherhood was frowned upon. Richard's words felt like a breath of fresh air. Our courtship was a whirlwind of promises and dreams. I was 35, he was 33. The modern couple, our friends called us. Richard's ambition was infectious. After landing a prestigious job, he soon left to chase his entrepreneurial dreams. I admired his courage, mistaking his arrogance for confidence. We married amidst a frenzy of optimism. But as time passed, the man I married began to fade, replaced by someone whose pride overshadowed everything else. Richard always spoke highly of his academic achievements and his superior genes. It was flattering at first, but soon his words took on a condescending tone. "I'm not like those factory workers," he'd say. "I'm destined for greater things." His disdain for others was subtle, but it was there, lurking beneath the surface of his charming facade. We were happy, or so I convinced myself. But as the years slipped by, a gnawing sense of unease took root. His entrepreneurial ventures were a series of unfulfilled promises. Yet Richard's arrogance only grew, his disdain for the less fortunate becoming more apparent. I realized then that I had been blind. blinded by the illusion of a life I thought we were building together. In my quest for love and partnership, I had overlooked the signs of the man Richard truly was. As I sipped my now cold tea, a sense of clarity washed over me. Richard's departure was not the end of my world, but the beginning of a new chapter. One where I wouldn't be overshadowed by his arrogance. I had lost a husband, but I had found myself. The office was eerily silent, the only sound the ticking of the clock and the distant hum of the city. I sat at my desk, the glow of the computer screen illuminating stacks of papers and reports. But my mind was elsewhere, lost in the labyrinth of my crumbling marriage. Richard's ambition had become an unquenchable thirst, driving a wedge between us. Our conversations, once filled with shared dreams and laughter, had turned into a monologue of his grievances and grandiose plans. "I can't believe we still don't have kids," Richard complained one evening, his voice laced with frustration. "Everyone we know has a family. What's wrong with us?" I felt a pang of pain at his words. We had been trying for a child for years, with no success. The hope that once lit up our home had dimmed, replaced by a heavy silence. "It's not something we can force, Richard," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "These things take time." "Time? We don't have time, Eleanor. I need an heir, someone to carry on my legacy," he snapped, his eyes cold and unyielding. His words stung, reducing our dream of a family to nothing more than a transaction, a means to fulfill his desire for a legacy. I was no longer his partner, but a vessel for his ambitions. When I suggested fertility treatments, his reaction was explosive. "I will not have my child labeled as a test tube baby," he barked. "It's either natural or nothing." "But Richard, there's nothing wrong with seeking help," I started, but he cut me off. "No, Eleanor, I won't have my name tarnished. It's your responsibility to give me a child the natural way." His words echoed in my head, a cruel reminder of how far we had drifted from the love that once bound us. I was trapped in a marriage with a man whose pride and ego overshadowed everything, including my feelings and our shared struggles. That night, as I lay in bed, the moon casting a pale light through the window, I realized the bitter truth. My marriage was a facade, a hollow shell built on Richard's ego and societal expectations. The man I had fallen in love with was gone, replaced by a stranger whose heart was as cold as his ambition. I knew then that I had to make a choice, to stay and wither under the weight of Richard's expectations or to break free and find my own path. The decision was clear, but the journey ahead was uncertain. One thing was sure, though. I was no longer the woman who needed Richard's approval to define her worth. The small, sterile room of the doctor's office felt like a sanctuary compared to the storm raging in my life. I sat there, clutching the edge of the chair, my heart racing with a mix of fear and hope. "You're pregnant, Eleanor," the doctor announced, a smile touching the corners of her lips. "Pregnant?" The word echoed in my mind, a distant dream that I had almost given up on. At 45, this was nothing short of a miracle. A tear slid down my cheek, not of sorrow, but of overwhelming joy. "I understand it's a lot to take in," the doctor said gently. "There are risks at your age, but many women have healthy pregnancies. You're not alone." Her words were a balm to my anxious heart. I left the clinic with a newfound strength, a fierce determination to protect this unexpected gift. The joy, however, was short-lived. The moment I shared the news with Richard, his reaction was like a cold blade through my heart. "A baby? Now?" he scoffed, his face twisted in disbelief. "You must be joking. We can't have a child now. It'll ruin everything." His words, sharp and merciless, cut through me. This wasn't just any child. This was our child, a symbol of our love, now reduced to an inconvenience in his grand plan. "I won't have a defective child, Eleanor," Richard continued, his voice void of any warmth. "You're too old. Think of the complications, the judgment. No, we can't keep it." Defective. The word stung, a cruel label for our unborn child. My hands trembled with a mix of anger and sorrow. "This child is not a mistake, Richard. It's our miracle." "A miracle?" Richard laughed mockingly. "No, it's a disaster. I won't be part of this. It's me or the baby, Eleanor." The ultimatum hung in the air, a stark reminder of the man Richard had become. In that moment, I saw him clearly, a man blinded by his ego, incapable of love or compassion. I stood up, my decision firm and unwavering. "I choose the baby, Richard. I choose a life filled with love, not contempt." Richard's face contorted with anger. Fine, have it your way, but don't expect anything from me. We're done, Eleanor. As he stormed out, slamming the door behind him, I felt a sense of liberation mixed with the pain. It was the end of an era, the end of my life with Richard. But it was also the beginning of a new journey, one where I would bring a new life into this world, a life filled with love and hope, far away from the shadow of Richard's disdain. As the seasons changed, so did my life. The apartment, once echoing with Richard's harsh words, now resonated with the soft coos and giggles of my daughter Ava. Each day with her was a reminder of my decision to choose love over despair. Ava's presence filled the void left by Richard's departure. Her bright eyes and innocent laughter were my sanctuary in a world that had once seemed so bleak. She was my miracle, a testament to my resilience. But being a single mother wasn't without its challenges. Balancing a demanding career with motherhood tested my limits. There were nights I collapsed into bed, exhausted but fulfilled, knowing every effort was for Ava's future. I often caught myself watching her sleep, a peaceful expression on her tiny face, unaware of the turmoil that marked her entry into this world. In those quiet moments, I promised to shield her from the bitterness of the past. Despite the joy Ava brought, Richard's shadow loomed over us. He had become a distant, unpleasant memory, yet his absence was a silent presence in our lives. Ava would sometimes ask about her father, her innocent queries a painful reminder of the man who had chosen his ego over his own child. He wasn't ready to be a father, sweetheart, I would say, choosing my words carefully. But you have me, and I love you more than anything. Ava's understanding nods were bittersweet. She was growing up without a father because of a man's pride and prejudice. As Ava grew, so did her curiosity and intelligence. She was a bright, vibrant child, her spirit untouched by the shadow of her father's abandonment. I poured all my love and energy into raising her, determined to give her the best life possible. But life has a way of bringing the past to your doorstep when you least expect it. It was during Ava's 10th birthday party that I received a call from Richard. "Eleanor, I want to see Ava. I have rights," his voice was demanding, a stark contrast to the laughter and music in the background. The call was unexpected, a ghost from the past I had hoped to keep buried. "Richard, you made your choice years ago," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I've changed. I deserve to be part of her life," he insisted. I looked at Ava, her face alight with joy as she opened her gifts. She didn't need the man who had dismissed her existence before she was even born. "Richard, we're fine without you. Ava doesn't need a father who only wants her when it's convenient." The line went silent before Richard hung up. I knew it wasn't the end, but I was ready to fight any battle for Ava. That night, as I tucked Ava into bed, her small hand in mine, I knew that no matter what Richard did or said, he could never take away the love and life we had built together. Ava was my strength, my hope, and together we were whole. Time had flown by, and Ava was now a young, independent woman, her brilliance a stark contrast to the dark days of her early life. I was returning from a coffee shop, my mind occupied with plans for Ava's upcoming graduation, when a familiar voice stopped me in my tracks. "Eleanor, is that really you?" The voice was unmistakable. It was Richard. I turned to see him standing there, looking much the same, yet somehow diminished. His once confident posture now seemed deflated, his eyes lacking the arrogance I remembered so well. "Richard," I said coolly, the memories of our last conversation flooding back. "What do you want?" He smirked, a shadow of his old self. "Just surprised to see you. How's life treating you, Eleanor? Still struggling as a single mother?" His words, meant to wound, fell flat. I had grown too strong, too far removed from his ability to affect me. "Ava is doing wonderfully, thanks for asking," I replied, my tone even. Richard raised an eyebrow. "Ava, right? Your daughter. She must be slow, struggling, just like her mother." The venom in his voice was familiar, but it no longer had the power to hurt me. "On the contrary, Richard, Ava is graduating top of her class. She's a remarkable young woman, despite your absence." A flicker of surprise crossed his face before his smirk returned. "Well, isn't that something? I always knew she'd have my brains." The arrogance, the audacity of his claim was almost laughable. "Your brains? You walked away, Richard. You chose your pride over your daughter. You don't get to take credit for her achievements." Richard's expression soured. I did what I had to do, Eleanor. You were the one who chose the child over me. I shook my head, disbelief mingling with a sense of vindication. No, Richard, you chose yourself, and now you live with that choice. There was a pause, a moment where the past and present seemed to collide. Richard's eyes searched mine, perhaps looking for a sign of the old Eleanor, the one who had once depended on his approval. You must have had a tough time raising her all alone, he said, his voice softer but still laced with condescendence. I can't imagine the struggles you faced without me. I couldn't help but smile, not out of joy, but at the irony of his words. You're right, Richard. It was tough, but we made it through. Ava and I, we didn't just survive, we thrived. Without you. His face tightened, the mask of superiority slipping. Well, good for you, Eleanor, always playing the strong, independent woman. But let's be honest, you must have missed me. Missed having a real man in your life. The remark was a feeble attempt to regain control, to poke at insecurities that no longer existed. Missed you? No, Richard. Your leaving was a blessing. It allowed me to find myself, to be a better mother. You were never the real man I needed. A real man wouldn't abandon his family. The words hit him, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something like regret in his eyes. But it was quickly replaced by the familiar haughty expression. Have it your way, Eleanor. I just thought I'd offer a chance for Ava to know her father, but it seems you're still holding on to old grudges. I took a deep breath, the years of pain and strength coalescing into a calm, unshakable resolve. There's no grudge, Richard, only the truth. You walked away, and now we're better off. Ava doesn't need a father who suddenly shows up when it's convenient for him. She's got everything she needs. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Richard standing alone, a figure from a past life that no longer had any hold on me. As I walked, I felt a sense of closure. A chapter finally closed. Ava and I had a future to look forward to, one that was ours to shape, free from the shadows of Richard's ego and neglect. That evening, as I shared the encounter with Ava, she listened quietly, her maturity shining through her young eyes. I don't need him, Mom, she said firmly. We've done just fine without him. Better than fine. Her words were a testament to the life we had built together, a life of resilience and love, starkly different from the one Richard had envisioned for us. Ava's strength and determination were the true victories over the past, over Richard's abandonment. As I tucked Ava into bed that night, a sense of peace settled over me. The encounter with Richard had reopened old wounds, but it also reaffirmed the strength and love that Ava and I shared. We were a team, unbreakable and bound by a journey that had tested us, but ultimately made us stronger. In the quiet of the night, I whispered a silent thank you to Richard. His departure, though painful, had paved the way for a life richer and more fulfilling than I could have ever imagined with him. Ava and I were proof that out of the ashes of betrayal and hurt, something beautiful could emerge. The weeks following my encounter with Richard were a whirlwind of emotions, but Ava and I remained focused on her upcoming graduation. It was a bright, sunny day, filled with promise and celebration, when our lives intersected with Richard's once again. As Ava and I navigated through the crowd of proud parents and graduates, a familiar, disagreeable voice called out, "Eleanor, fancy seeing you here." Turning, I saw Richard, looking out of place amidst the joyous throng. His presence was like a dark cloud on this otherwise perfect day. "What are you doing here, Richard?" I asked, my voice laced with a clear edge. "I came to see my daughter graduate. After all, I am her father," he declared, a smug look on his face. Ava, standing beside me, tensed. I could feel her discomfort, her world momentarily shaken by the appearance of the man who had chosen to be a stranger to her. "Your daughter?" I echoed, incredulous. "You forfeited that title a long time ago." Richard's smirk faded, replaced by a look of annoyance. "I have every right to be here. I want to be part of Ava's life." It was then that something unexpected happened. A young woman, around Ava's age, approached us. She looked at Richard with a mix of surprise and distaste. "Dad, what are you doing here? And who are these people?" Richard, caught off guard, stuttered. "And Natalie, this is Eleanor and Ava, my other family." Natalie's eyes widened, and she turned to Ava and me. "I'm so sorry, I had no idea about you. He never mentioned." Her words trailed off, the implication clear. Richard had kept us a secret, a hidden chapter of his life. Ava stepped forward, her voice strong despite the situation. It's okay. We've managed fine without him. Richard's face reddened, his facade crumbling. Natalie, let's not do this here, he muttered. But Natalie wasn't finished. No, Dad. You need to hear this. What you've done is unforgivable. You can't just walk back into their lives because it suits you. The confrontation attracted a few curious onlookers. Richard, now visibly shaken, looked around, his pride wounded. Eleanor, Ava, I'm truly sorry for my father's actions, Natalie said sincerely. I had no idea. Before Richard could respond, Natalie took his arm, leading him away from us. Over her shoulder, she mouthed a silent apology. As they disappeared into the crowd, Ava let out a deep breath she had been holding. I'm glad she knows the truth now, she said quietly, her eyes reflecting a mix of relief and newfound resolve. Yes, I replied, feeling a sense of closure washing over me. It's time everyone saw Richard for who he truly is. The graduation ceremony proceeded, a celebration of achievements and new beginnings. As I watched Ava walk across the stage, her head held high, pride and love filled my heart. She was the embodiment of strength and grace, untouched by the shadow of Richard's neglect. After the ceremony, as we mingled among the crowd, I noticed Natalie approaching us again, this time alone. Her expression was one of determination and sincerity. Eleanor, Ava, I just wanted to say, seeing my father today, the way he acted, I'm embarrassed, and I'm sorry, she said, her voice earnest. Ava smiled softly, a gesture of understanding and forgiveness. Thank you, Natalie, that means a lot to us. Natalie nodded, then added, I hope we can move past this. I'd like to get to know you both, if that's okay. Her offer was genuine, a silver lining in the cloud Richard had cast over the day. We'd like that, I said, smiling. It's a chance to start anew, on our terms. As Natalie left to rejoin her family, I looked at Ava, her face beaming with pride and accomplishment. This day was hers, a testament to her hard work and resilience. Walking back to our car, Ava slipped her hand into mine. Mom, we did it. Despite everything, we made it. Yes, we did, I replied, squeezing her hand, and we'll continue to do so together. That day, as we drove home, the sun setting in a brilliant display of colors, I knew that the path ahead would be filled with challenges and triumphs. But with Ava by my side, there was nothing we couldn't face. Richard's attempt at reconciliation had backfired, exposing him for the man he truly was. It was a form of justice, a poetic end to his years of arrogance and neglect. In his quest for a perfect life, he had lost everything that truly mattered. As for Ava and me, our journey was just beginning, a journey of hope, love, and endless possibilities. Richard was a part of our past, but he would no longer define our future.